Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a very large storm system that will be coming and forming into the coming days. Now this thing will have long-lasting impacts across a good portion of the United States and actually all over the United States, as this will create a pattern that produces a lot of warm air across the western and northwestern United States and southwestern Canada, while it produces quite a bit of chilly weather across the eastern half of the country, including eastern and southern Canada. So let's just start talking about that. Right now, notice for the Weather Ready Nation map and the National Weather Service, there isn't really much going on aside from some frost and freezes across the northeast, a few red flag warnings across Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, and I'll explain why those are present and why that has to do directly with this upcoming system. And we do have some flash flood warning watches across southwest, extreme southwest Texas, and we also have some flash flood warnings across the southwest, the kind of the Four Corners area, just a bit west of those areas, and that is producing some spotty downpours and whatnot. So first of all, let's look at the GFS model, and let me show you why we have those red flag warnings. So notice again, as I've been mentioning, this cool down that we had, it moved out. It's long gone. We have a high pressure that we have been talking about for the past several uploads now. And you can see it's gotten pretty strong. It's producing winds that are clockwise, so it's steering a lot of this moisture from the southwest and the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, converging it around the area of Texas, where we have a low pressure and kind of another high pressure that's driving winds from the other side, counterclockwise, and this is producing this kind of this funnel of water and rain, and that's why we have some flood watches across Texas right now. And with this, we have very strong winds actually, and these will continue into tomorrow. So that's why those red flag warnings are posted for some areas like Nebraska, or they may even be expanded further into the Dakotas or into Iowa and Minnesota, depending on how the situation looks. But notice that by tomorrow we have spotty little areas again, kind of showers, storms. The winds are increasing still, and we have a lot of warm air. So tomorrow will be a very warm day across the country. That is, I guess, the central part of the country. Notice we have 70s and 80s well into Minneapolis, Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, the UP. So a very, very warm day. And let's take a look at the anomalies to show you how above average this anomaly is. And you can see it's pretty incredible. So with that, we have a lot of moisture transport, and we do see those showers starting to erupt. Notice we have a spearhead of very chilly air right on the backside of the system, which you can't even really see because I'd have to zoom out to North America, which you can see it's right there. So this thing is an absolute monster of a storm. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Right? And you can see it starts developing its cold front, which is going to be affecting our viewing area. And that is what only is kind of able to be shown as I show this giant, this is a giant view of the whole entire United States, southern Canada, but it's still just a cold front of the system. Notice it starts intensifying pretty quickly, starts wrapping around this cool air. And what this does is it essentially backlogs a lot of this moisture into this cool air, producing some snow into Ontario, into potentially Manitoba. And that system gets far enough disconnected, the one way up, across pretty much northern Canada, that it starts forming its own little areas of circulation, and the cold front has a mind of its own. And notice that you can see some pretty heavy snow there across northern Ontario, and this cold front doesn't stop. While it may look like if that's the end of it, no, the cool air continues coming in. We still have that very warm air out ahead of it, those very strong winds. And what that does is you can see by late Wednesday and into Thursday, we start seeing winds that increasingly push a lot of moisture into the northeast, and we see another area of circulation develop, right? And we see more, snow showers developing. You can see Manitoba potentially dealing with quite a nice shot of snow there. And look at that cold front as it intensifies off the northeast coast right there, and produces several more areas of a pretty decent circulation. So again, it's a pretty large system, has a lot of cool air with it, and it will kind of maintain this pattern. You can see it kind of gets stuck. So we have this very warm air that moves up towards the northwest, right? As we have this jet stream that dips here, it troughs in the west. So there will be very warm temperatures across pretty much entirety of the western United States, while we have this cool air across the Great Lakes. And let me go back and show you that this will continue for a while. So as I put this forward, this is now Sunday, this upcoming weekend, right? You can see still have this lingering cool air. Again, the system's kind of long gone. It's pretty much sheared out into an upper level low, but it's still producing these shots of cool air, maybe some lake effect across the, especially Lake Superior, the northern lakes. And this pattern continues for at least a week and a half. And maybe maybe much later on we do see a break, but some models you can see like the GFS continue showing little disturbances coming in, pushing more cool air while the west continuously deals with very, very warm air. Now again, this pattern will eventually break. You can see this one shows a very big storm moving into the northwest. Whether or not that's the one that breaks it, we'll have to see. But you can see that's pretty far out, almost 13 days from today. And what we do start seeing is, again, probably more activity, just in a different form. And you can see this storm could be even more powerful. So that's that. That's the GFS, or yeah, GFS. Let me show you now the European model, which is arguably has a better handle on this system, as it's been showing this system for a bit earlier on. And notice, there we go. There's our warm air. There's our high pressure. There's our cool, cold air, cold front. These things converge. European does a better job of showing how explosive some of these showers and the storms may be tomorrow with all that warm air. Again, late tomorrow into early Wednesday across Illinois. You can see Missouri, Iowa, into the UP, Michigan, and this continues dragging into the eastern United States. And you can see it starts developing those areas of circulation right there, backfiring some of the precip into the cool air, producing ice, snow, and this cold front. You can see the European really shows a powerful cold front across the northeast, delivering lots of rain and strong winds. And you can see this is pretty slow moving. There will be a lot of rain with that, to say the least. And again, it will be slow moving, and it will be kind of producing these little areas of circulation and low pressure that will continue pumping this cool air that is settled across southern Canada more further south into the northern United States for a good while. And you can see that the European maintains this pattern, right? I mean, you can see those 540 line, the 534 line continuously kind of just intruding into the eastern United States. This will be bringing, all of the pretty much east of the Rockies, very chilly air, and that will obviously lead to very warm air across the west. So, it's kind of like a trade-off, and you can see that more systems probably to develop off of that. So, the European keeps it, again, pretty interesting, and it does break the pattern, possibly at around a similar time frame as what the GFS does. Let me show you some of the total accumulated precipitation amounts, especially across the northeast, where some of these rains could be, well, let's just say pretty impressive. Notice a widespread, 1 to 2, maybe even some 3-inch amounts. Not the worst case scenario, because a lot of these areas are dry in New England, so they need that rain. Further westward, you can see there could be a bit of rain as well, especially with those spotty showers and storms. You can pick up easily a quick 1, maybe 2 inches of rain if you have some of those showers training over the same area. And you can see that this continued kind of pattern favors a lot of the eastern United States, seeing that precipitation, while the west remains dry. And that's for now, because I do believe this pattern won't be holding for too long, into November or whatnot, but definitely for the foreseeable future. And let's take a look at the 2-meter temperature shaded, but I want to take a look at the actual anomaly. So let's go back to this website, same model again, just here I have the anomalies that I could show you. On the other website I can't. So again, very warm air out ahead of that system. You can see a cool blast of air behind it, and that cool air, once it makes it there, it will be stubborn and lingering there for a while. Maybe some intrusions of warm air once in a while, but predominantly you can see pretty cool. And that cool air makes its way well into the southern United States, just west and southwestern Canada. It will be stuck on that warm side of this. Again, I do believe this pattern will probably end around the, maybe the 23rd, so probably the last week of October, as the ensembles kind of start favoring a warmer pattern taking shape across more of this kind of the general United States, more of a zonal flow. But, the pattern following that it's a bit hard to tell what's going to actually happen. So, especially since this pattern is going to be lasting for such a long time. So that's what the European and the GFS have to show. Let me show you what the European shows in terms of accumulated snowfall for the United States and the southern Canada. You can see that throughout this event we could see a lot of, obviously, northern Manitoba, Ontario probably picking up the first decent snows of the year, and then across Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, the UP. If you haven't seen your first flakes of the year, this will probably be where you could start seeing some. You can see the European far out show some snow over there. Whether or not that happens, that remains to be seen. That's a little bit far out, so we're not going to focus on that. Canadian model in terms of snowfall, you can see pretty similar to what the European shows. Shows definitely a little bit more here than what the European shows, and definitely shows a lot more across the lower Great Lakes here, which is probably a bit too bullish in terms of the snow there. And if you take a look at the GFS model, which I showed you, it was the first model I showed you. You can see it's more closely resembling the European, and again, I would say has a pretty good chance of being accurate. You can see the GFS goes out further, and it starts showing more activity across the west right there in the long range. So that's potentially something we will have to keep an eye on there. I mean, some of these amounts, some of these snowfall amounts would be here pretty impressive. My mouse just kind of stopped working. Notice right there that would be obviously pretty good news if that were to occur. I want to go to the Canadian because I didn't show you this model. I showed you its total snowfall right just a few minutes ago, but I'm curious now because it showed so much snow pretty far south of the United States. I want to see how it differs. Okay, so it shows the high pressure, right? It shows a lot of this warm air again. Shows that big first system pretty much in the same fashion that the other models. Other models show. I guess okay, yeah. So it pumps just more moisture back into Manitoba, Ontario, but I don't think that's the reason why it shows a lot of that. So yeah, so I guess it's just even slower with the cold front than what the other models were, and okay, yeah, so it doesn't produce snow from this first system. It's from one of the secondary blasts that it shows us a pretty intense blast of cold air and some sort of a snowy system there. So, yeah, definitely interesting. We'll have to see whether or not that actually occurs. Again, right now I would say probably not. But, yeah, it's interesting the Canadians kind of showing something different. Again, wouldn't really pay much attention to that. But yes, this first system will definitely be pretty intense. There will be a lot of wind, a lot of cool air behind this that will be bringing more first frost and first freezes to everyone. Let's go and take a look at the NAM. So this is a shorter range model, right? It goes out less further out, only to 84 hours, but it shows us a good outlook of what could happen. So notice tomorrow during the day, it's going to be warm, especially, I mean, look at that, central Minnesota, mid 80s, it's going to feel hot. That's very impressive. You can see those areas of green right there, some, cooler temperatures. That's where we will be having a little bit of shower activity and cloud cover, so it won't be as warm. Notice then, after that, we do see some cool air move in, so, 850 the next day. That's going to be quite a bit of a change for the upper Midwest there. Still warm across the Northeast, and then we really start seeing some of those much cooler temperatures move in. You can see widespread frost probably across those areas. And the next night following that, probably widespread freezes if this were to go out further. So you could see another, a pretty chilly blast, and the NAM 12 km does show some pretty decent precipitation as well for the west here, and you can see it's still showing that cold front across the Northeast. I don't think it's fully done with it. Yeah, it's still in progress there. You can see it's going to be a pretty slow moving system, pretty impressive storm, and yeah, it's going to be very large in terms of its scale. So that's definitely something to note. Alright, well, that's basically it. That's all I have for you today. And I will catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.